Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters. And yes, we are back with another fantastic fest review. Yes, coming down to the wire here, folks. Only a handful left to go through. And one of those films that I didn't know a thing about. And Luke, I feel like you're pretty much in the same camp. Is that
Yes,
safe to say?
100%.
Okay, so is this Mr. Crocket? This is the Huluween original that they're dropping this year. As we know, Hulu, they're really good about getting at least one horror movie out around Halloween. And of course, they always do their Huluween, where they just put a ton of horror movies on there for everybody to watch. As we know, they have a pretty good track record with us with things like Prey, which we absolutely adored. And then, of course, there was Hellraiser, which we also really enjoyed. And Luke, I think they were responsible for Fresh, weren't they?
Yes, they were,
Yes.
which
So,
was another
go
good
ahead.
one. It was
Yeah.
on my
So
list a
they
couple of
have,
years ago.
yep, they have a really solid track record when it comes to horror. So whenever they show up at a festival, you get my attention. But again, I knew nothing about Mr. Crocket. I only saw what everybody else saw, which was the poster, and I think a trailer just dropped shortly after it premiered. And I didn't even know what this thing was about or what it was rated. Luke, after seeing the film, how do you feel?
As soon as we got the little press release about this one, in deciding whether we're gonna, take it or not, and this one escaped me. Apparently, it was part of the Halloween bite-sized Halloween back in 2022, and they've extended into a feature-length film. I don't know how this one escaped me. Looking at it, it checks all the boxes that I'm totally about. It feels like that kind of gateway horror, but has an edge to it. It's got the Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark kind of episodic thing, but almost expanded upon, into an hour 30, which, as soon as I saw the trailer, I was jumping all over this thing. I thought it looked exciting. I thought it had that fun tone, where that juxtaposition of you're mixing horror with a children's TV show host, just had a unique look to it. So I was rather excited as soon as I turned this one on. And I love the places that they go in this. They don't shy away from some of the gore, which really surprised me on the things they're able to accomplish here. A couple things get a little shaky for me, but overall, I had a lot of fun with Mr. Crocket.
Yeah. I'm going to open up my side of this review by saying, Blumhouse, if you're watching, take some notes because this feels like a Blumhouse movie, doesn't it? Like from the setup, the formula, everything they're doing, this feels very Blumhouse. So I was a little concerned when this movie first started and we were kind of going through, but it quickly got me on board. Luke will obviously know there are things in the intro that obviously would get me excited, especially with how they approach them using, of course, practical effects. But I was completely shocked with just the edge that this film has to it. Now, I'm not saying this is, again, Terrifier levels of gore or anything, but I was pretty damn surprised at just how hard R, not I guess hard R, but how R rated this film really felt at the end of the day. Because at this time we're sitting at this, I don't believe this thing is even rated yet, if they're even going to rate it for Hulu. But I imagine it's going to be R rated.
Yeah, I don't think you can escape it, especially with the ground that they cover here. It's funny you mentioned Blumhouse because as I was watching this, I had a thought in my head. We saw Imaginary earlier this year, and I said, that film has so much potential, and it never really gets to where we want it to be. And I had a thought in my head of this is the concept here, the tone here, what they do cover. This is what I wanted Imaginary to be. This is the potential that film had that they never accomplished. And I got to say, the ground that they cover in this one, from a visual standpoint is just absolutely beautiful. I love the kind of bright colors that we're going with. And then, we get into that immense amount of horror. And like you're saying, they don't shy away from any of the gore in this thing. I was surprised as well. There are some elements in here, even when we start, I was surprised and I was like, okay, maybe I can find my groove, but they keep pushing the boundaries in this one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, for horror fans, this is going to be very pleasurable for them because of, from a scene to scene basis here, they really do outdo themselves, I'll say, from scene to scene in terms of the gore that they bring and the uniqueness of some of the kills that we do see in this film. And I just love the idea behind this thing,
Mm-hmm.
this is very reminiscent of I'm wearing my Bray Wyatt shirt here. This is very Firefly Funhouse. esque, and that tugged at my heartstrings to see this really extended upon in an hour and a half here. They have some fun characters, some fun. I don't know exactly what they are. Some monstrosities that accompany Mr. Crocket around. I love some of the one-liners. There's one close to the end that I just absolutely cracked me up, which sometimes when you meld in the comedy, it doesn't necessarily work, but there is an absolute happy marriage here for Mr. Crocket.
I agree 100%. I never felt like the tone was ever in the wrong spot with this. I think that they very much found a good way to balance the humor with the the scares and the horror. And because it comes into that nature, because you see this preview. I've seen it since the film has come out. And the preview, it's like they don't necessarily give you all the money shots, which I love. And they show Mr. Crockett doing this thing where he's coming around the corner with his big smile. And I'm like, if I would have seen that beforehand, I would have been very concerned because I would have been like, oh, this looks like it's going to be a really tough sell. And on paper, yes, it is a tough sell. It is a very tough sell to say, like, yeah, this is going to be something that is actually creepy and I could see scaring some people. For us, it was pure enjoyment, pure entertainment. But I do see this, especially for maybe like younger teens watching this, actually being a bit freaked out by this film. And that's a very good spot to be in for what I feel like a Huluween should be. It should kind of appeal to a wide audience. And I think Mr. Crockett certainly will. It's enough hard edge mixed with enough of that. I think all age groups could get into this, to a certain extent. You don't want to show this to little kids. I made the mistake, I will admit. My wife was there with me. We've been watching Fantastic Best Screeners together all week. And I put this on thinking this is probably a PG-13 horror. And within about the first 5 minutes, I had to stop it and be like, okay, we're going to watch this later when my son is asleep. Because he was all about the monsters. But yeah, when they started doing something, I was like, oh no, okay, yeah, this is our. So uh, I really enjoyed my time with Mr. Crocket. And the last piece of this that I want to say that I absolutely need to highlight is the performance by Elvis Nolasco, I think is how you say it. Nolasco. I
Nolasco, I believe.
probably butchered your name, sir, but bravo, because Mr. Crocket is so likable. He and devious, and it's just one of those performances. It's got shades of Freddy Krueger. It's got shades of all of these different hosts that we grew up with, like a Mr. Rogers mixed with Freddy Krueger. He is so brilliantly cast. You could tell that he was really getting into the role. And I mean, although the film for me is something where it's like, yes, I think this is a really solid, fun flick. Is this something I'm going to revisit all the time? Probably not, but I think maybe around the Halloween season, I could see myself throwing it on. I do find myself wanting a sequel solely because of Elvis Nikolsko's performance. I want to see more Mr. Crockett.
Yes, I'm going to second that 100%. I'm going to be looking forward to finding the VHS for Mr. Crocket in my outdoor library box in my front yard. Hopefully, at one point, I will dust this off rather frequently, to be honest. I had a lot of fun with this film. Sometimes I think the narrative stalled just a tiny bit for me. We do get that exposition dump, but they find a really creative way with some animation that they use. I think that was rather well done. Again, it just has such a creative stamp on it. And then you look at the character of Mr. Crocket, where he's this nice guy. He's got this. It's a perfect equation of nice guy eeriness. You're on edge, and there's a scene in here where sometimes these performances can seem a little hollow, where it's like maybe a little superficial, doesn't come off real. They don't give enough layers to it. There's a scene here we get a peek behind a curtain, so to speak, and we get to see Mr. Crocket, and I absolutely love the way that was done. I think it gives layers to this character where you're even more on edge after you do see that. And this is something where, as I was talking about while I was watching this with my wife, and I was like, I love the element of this Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark, but pushing that
Mm-hmm.
R-ratedness. I would love for Hulu or some sort Shutter, whoever wants to do it, is to take kind of these fun concepts that we remember as kids, but then push that hard R and really just do something fun annually with it. So if that means more Mr. Crockett every Halloween season, I'm 100% for it. This for me is a strong recommend. I think, this is going to be one of the winners coming out of October for me, just from a visual standpoint, from a creative standpoint, and of course, for all the gore hounds out there, you're going to be pleased.
Yeah, no, and I gotta say, this was probably, of everything we've seen thus far, and admittedly we have a few more films, although not my favorite of the festival, I gotta say the biggest surprise. I would have said probably Strange Harvest because I didn't know anything about it again, but because the setup and going into this and just saying, hey, this could go either way, again, having those Blumhouse vibes, and then just seeing them absolutely nail it was just such a sweet treat for me. And I just keep kind of rephrasing that Mr. Crocket is a sweet Halloween treat that you absolutely want to get in your candy bag this Halloween. I think all horror fans, again, young, old, will have some fun with this. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to knock your socks off. I'm not saying that this is going to be something that's absolutely going to blow you away. You can tell Luke, much bigger fan of this than I am, but I still love it. I still enjoy it. This is definitely up his alley, and it's something that I also was very surprised and happy with. So whether you're a gore hound or you're only looking for scares, if you love the Halloween season and you love, again, like Luke said, that goosebumps, are you afraid of the dark? If you want to feel a bit nostalgic with a little bit of a harder edge to it, I think Mr. Crocket is definitely going to be the sweet treat that you want to try this year. And yeah, I'm going to also go with a recommend. I definitely think that this is something that, for me, my real only complaint is that I think with a little bit of padding towards the center half of this film, and I would say this only feels like we've scratched the surface with this character. So if we can get maybe Mr. Crocket 2 and 3, really start to open up his power set and what his abilities are, I'm all for it. Let's get a Mr. Crocket franchise. I absolutely had a blast with this. And I do also lastly want to throw a little bit of positivity towards Brandon Espy's way. He's the director of this. Bravo, sir. You've absolutely nailed the tone here. And it's rare because, like Luke said, Imaginary felt like it could have gone this route. And had they gone this route, probably would have liked it a lot more. And Mr. Crocket just filled that little hole that film left in our hearts. Alrighty, well, that's going to wrap us up here for this, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Let us know down below if you are going to check out Mr. Crocket, or if you are already watching it or have watched it. Let us know what your thoughts are. And yeah, it's going to wrap us up here. So stick with us. Got a few more on the horizon, of course, and then it'll be Halloween in just a few days, folks, or at least October, I should say. I always say Halloween because the whole month. But anyway, guys, that's it. So until next time, I'm Dylan Knoll.
And I'm Luke Nolasco.
And remember, stay scared.
Do the horror shit, gonna do it live, cause Splattercast kick it every day they live. Splattercast, slash ass, Splattercast, slash ass, Splattercast, slash ass, Splattercast, slash ass, Splattercast.